everybody. Welcome to Behind the Bio. This is our series that interviews a different lawyer each month to talk about turning points in their career. My name is Julie Osick Ackerman. I'm your host, and I'm delighted to welcome our guest today, Kristen Ferris. She is a director at Goulston and Stores in Boston. Hi, Kristen. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Julie. I'm happy to be here. And for those listening, the term director in Goulston is the same thing as partner in other law firms.
Thank you for explaining. Yeah. We're gonna talk about some good stuff today. There's gonna be something about a crazy email forward and a breast pump meltdown and all kinds of good stuff. So stay tuned, everybody. Kristen, before we dive into that, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your practice at Goulston?
Sure. I am in the corporate practice group. I would say primarily M&A in the private sector with a focus on private equity and their portfolio companies. I do some work with strategic companies as well, and various operating company, corporate matters. I've been practicing, I guess for like 17 plus years now. And that sums it up.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's jump in. When I asked Kristen to send me a couple of turning points, the first one she said was the breast pump meltdown. And I wanted a year so we could say it's like the great breast pump meltdown of, 2014.
15. Let's go 15.
There you go. All right, I was close. Yeah. So tell us about that.
Yes, and what I will say is, I kind of joke that my life is a series of anecdotes, and they are all basically true. And now at this point, I can look back and laugh. At the time, it wasn't funny per se, but it was one of those moments where it gave me a pause to look around, figure out what I was doing. So I'll back it up and frame this for you. It was 2015. And I had just had my son, George, in August of 2014. So he wasn't even a year old yet. He's my third child. And, back then, we didn't usually use the words breast pump in any sentence one way or another at a law firm, right? It was just like, oh, that's my backpack. I need to bring it in, right? And I was really busy with my practice and had a lot of things going on, and I was still pumping at the office and wherever I went until he turned 1. And I was asked by the firm to go to our DC office to do an introduction and meet with a bunch of new associates. And, that's one of my favorite things to do. And I like meeting new associates and other partners in my prior firm's offices. So I said, absolutely, happy to do it. So I packed my pump, I packed, all the things I went with it, and set off to DC. The moment I landed in DC, I got a frantic call from a partner in Boston who said, where are you? I need you to come look at something. And I said, I'm actually in DC right now. And the partner said, wait, why? Yeah, I need you here. And I said, well, the firm asked me to be here, so I sort of needed to, and I thought we talked about it. No. I thought you'd be back by now. No, I need you to be on the next plane back.
Oh, wow.
To Boston. And I was like, how am I going to make this work? What do I say to the DC people? I need to say yes to everything. How do I figure this out? And it wasn't happening. So, I hit one event, then I packed everything up, and I was making my way back to Boston. And, I'm sure a lot of moms have experienced this when, TSA starts to frisk you and go through your gear. Like you look at them and you don't touch my liquid gold. You don't open it. This is a no, that's one of the main things. So I was stressed out. I was bringing it all back to the office and really kind of frustrated with everything, right? I hadn't been sleeping. You don't sleep with a newborn, and we were working as an associate in a very active practice. And my husband met me at the office in the lobby, and I handed off the goods. He had the 3 kids with him. And at that moment, I was just like, I just started crying. I just had an absolute meltdown. And I went upstairs to the office and basically was like, I can't do this. this is just an impossible existence. And, I don't know how I'm supposed to practice and say, and do this and do that, and I literally had a meltdown of epic proportions because I went around and told everyone I was quitting, I was leaving, I was done. And all the partners were kind of like, okay, what happened in DC? And it wasn't anything that happened in DC. It was just, being pulled in 17 directions and me trying to say yes to everything. And so from that point, that summer, I was literally like unplugging from work. I decided I was going to go in-house, and I started interviewing. And, to my partner's credit at the time, they all said, how can we help? Who can we introduce you to? We want you to be happy. We want this to work out. And along the course of that, it was one of those, I don't think being in-house is for me. That's not the right answer here, and that's not going to fix things. And talking to a particular partner at the time who I hadn't worked much with, but we had a Starbucks in our old building, and I was sitting down in the lobby just kind of processing and trying to figure things out. And he said, can I talk to you for a second? I said, come on over. He said, Kristen, one of the things is you need to take a little responsibility for this, and that you do the, excuse me? Mm-hmm. And you need to take responsibility for your own life, right? No one can force you to do things. You need to say no sometimes and put a fence around your own private life, because no one's going to do it for you. Mm-hmm. And I was a little frustrated, like, come on, how do you say no to anybody and you're trying to make everyone happy so that you can succeed in a firm, right? So we went back and forth and talked about it for a little bit. And, I said, you're right. There are people at the firm who don't say yes to everything. And they do see their kids, and they do say, I'm not able to travel. Whatever it is, you can do that and still be successful. So through all of this, I, did a deep dive into myself and said, fine, you can do this. You love working at the firm. You love the transactional practice and the people you work with. So how do we make this work? And so, after I'd already jumped off the cliff and said to everyone I was leaving, I came back and said, I really don't want to leave. And I said, I want to be partner here, and this is where I want to be, and, all of these other things. So through some back and forth and a lot of discussion, I decided to stay, and then I, kind of sketch out my next 12 months of how do I get to being a partner without absolutely losing my mind again, right? And just figuring out how to balance everything. Because when I first started at the firm in 2006, there was a female partner, and I said to her, because I was, at the time thinking about a family and hadn't even quite gotten there, I said, how do you do this? And she said, Kristen, you can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. And I remember thinking, okay. So anywho, the breast pump meltdown ended up being probably one of the biggest moments in my career, of after quitting and telling everyone I was leaving to coming back on full, 100% in and wanting to be partner. It was a traumatic couple of months for me, and I'm sure everyone around me. So for anyone who's listening, I apologize for my, rants and rate and all the stuff that happened at the time. But sometimes it takes someone else to sort of say, hey, you need to take some responsibility and figure it out for yourself as well. So that's all about the breast pump meltdown of 2015.
I love it. Yeah, I can relate. I've, have two kids and have been through the whole pump situation. But what really strikes me in the story is that maybe it was a blessing that you, so publicly told people what was happening, because I think for a lot of us, like, I worked at a big firm, I was struggling, I just left. Like, I didn't tell everybody what was happening. So I love that you, had the courage to say, this is what's happening with me. And then we're able to hear that feedback and to really take it on. Because that, it seems like that made all the difference.
Absolutely. And one of the great things that the firm had done in facilitating and making it a welcoming environment for moms in particular is they had a formal lactation room, and they allowed you to have that privacy and the time and do it. And it was very different from, as our other partners would say, back in the day, we never had anything like that. You were like in a bathroom stall doing whatever. And this was also one of those times of, okay, the other female associates felt like, okay, we have other people going through this. I'm not alone. And so, if anything positive came out of that, I'm very glad.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it did. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So then the next turning point you mentioned involves an email forward. About
that. Okay. So I was an associate at the time. Again, I don't remember what year it was, but for those who've been in M&A or have done transactional work, there's always a couple of crazy days leading up to a closing. And that's where all the paper's flying and you need client signature pages. And I don't even think we had DocuSign at the time. So it was, figuring out how do we coordinate, get them back, or maybe PDF. And our clients were on an email and I was in charge of the closing. And I emailed everybody and I said, listen, if we want to be in a position to close on whatever Friday, I need your signature pages. And this was like my third email to them. And I guess I said it in a stern way, like have to have it today by so-and-so o'clock or we're not closing. And a couple minutes go by and an email popped up from one of the clients and it said, she's much sexier in person. And I went, oh my God, clearly was not intended for me. Clearly was supposed to have been forwarded to somebody, whatever. And you see it and you freeze and you go, wow. I don't know what to do. What do I do? Do I tell the partner I'm working with? I don't know what to do. So my initial reaction was, okay, well, I need to let him know I got this email. But on the other hand, I don't want him to think it's impacted me in a way that's like going to prevent me from doing my job. So me being me, I hit reply and I wrote, I totally agree. And I hit send.
That's fantastic.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I waited for any other emails to come through. Nothing did. And I thought, oh, shoot, I should probably go tell the partner that this happened with his clients, right? So I'm like purple and just flustered and thinking, how am I going to get all these signature pages done? Anyway, so I go to the partner's office and I said, this happened. And this partner was visibly upset. And he was very, angry. And I thought, is he mad at me? Is he mad? Like, and he was clearly upset with the client. Said, I'll take care of this. And so I'm thinking, geez, if I'd said nothing, I don't know. If I'd said nothing, would it have just gone away? What do I do? And so fast forward, I got my signature pages from that client, 10 minutes later. So something worked. But the partner had the conversation with the client. And would you believe me if I told you that the client denied it? And yeah, so the partner.
But it's in writing? What a dummy.
It's in writing. I have the entire, So I said to the partner, obviously it happened because I showed you the email. It's not like I'm making this up. And the partner said, well, I phrased it in a way of if somebody, I don't know, hacked into your computer and accidentally sent an email from there to one of my associates again, you're basically not going to be one of our clients again. And I thought, wow, that's support of an associate. And that makes you feel like, okay, they've got my back and what a great place to be. And all of my fears and, so what did I learn, I guess, from that event was one, be careful who you forward your emails to. Email is scary, right? Like if you accidentally just hit forward versus who knows. And we always work with challenging clients from time to time. It's just how you deal with it. And so I chose to deal with it with humor. But, I also did the side discussion with the partner and say, here's what's going on. And then, as I said, when I opened it, I kind of was paralyzed. And then I thought, don't let this stop. You're being silly, right? Don't let those sorts of things paralyze you. And just figure out what's the best way to deal with it and make sure you're working with partners who will support you in all of these things, right? So, if the partner I told said to me, Kristen, just move on, get over it. It would have been a different story to tell today, but I'm glad that it happened the way it did. And I felt lucky, I suppose, to have that partner supporting me. And, as we're talking about it now, if we don't address these, if we don't talk about them, people they're not going to have, we're not going to have change. And so, I think talking about it is one part of it. And then reflecting on stories like this, you have to laugh because it is funny. Everyone that I've told the story to, they were like, no. I said, yeah, that happened. Thank God he didn't say like, oh, she's such a terrible part, anything awful, but he's, at the end of the day,
right. I thought it was going to be, a nasty word about you. But I mean, still not good. Still not good. Yeah. And so again, I'm struck by how much support, like that's pretty incredible that the partner not only like addressed it, but also said like, if this happens again,
right.
Like that is like putting their money where their mouth is. Right.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I've tried. You take things from different partners and places you work that you like and how you want to behave. And I've always told associates, come to me, talk to me. I want to support you. Let me know what's going on. And I always remember those things of how well you're treated by the partners you worked with. And so that's something that I always have in my pocket, thinking about how can I make those associates feel supported and, in their work environment.
And also the importance of allies, to have a male partner, support a female associate. That's also how change happens, right? Like we definitely need allies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what a great story. So, and did you take anything from that? Because you mentioned, working in a male dominated space. Was there anything, any other lessons you took from that as far as like how to navigate the male dominated practice?
I would just say so all the thoughts that went through my head were, what was I wearing when I saw him? And I was questioning myself, really, like, what did I do wrong? And I realized I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm not going to change who I am and how I behave because somebody has this opinion, that he should keep his opinions to himself and just let me do my job. I literally just put my, head back on, straightened it out and said, just do your job, be the best you can be. And men, women, whoever you're working with, they're clients. And like I said, some are challenging, and I will always stay true to who I am and just move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you were quickly able to realize that it wasn't you. That was not, you were not the problem in that situation.
I would suggest that it didn't take 10 seconds for me to be like, it wasn't me. Over the next couple of weeks, I kept thinking, what did I do? How do I change? Oh gosh, I knew I shouldn't be, wearing a dress or whatever. And it was like, what? You sound crazy right now. Like, stop it. So, you beat yourself up and you look at it, but at the end of the day, it really isn't you. Well, it wasn't you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I love the first two. So now the third thing that you had mentioned was making this jump from Morgan Lewis to Goulston. So maybe like, when did you start thinking about wanting to move? Like, tell us about what started that.
Well, clearly I told you I wanted to leave in 2015 and I told everyone I was leaving, but that got sorted out. I wasn't looking. I didn't want to leave. When I joined the firm, which had been Bingham McCutcheon, which had been merged with Morgan Lewis in 2014, I joined and I loved everything about it. I wanted to be there for my entire career. And when the merger happened, I was actually on maternity leave with my second child. And no, it was with George. It was at the beginning. I'm sorry. So when it happened with George, I thought, oh, geez, I hope I have a job, number one. Mm-hmm. And then as it turned out, I did. And I finished my leave and went back. It was okay. It felt the same. Everything was the same. And we just worked it felt like a larger family at the time. I'd fast forward to becoming partner. And, as people know, when you have 3 kids and you're working full time and you're doing deal work, there's a lot of late nights, through the nights, overnights, whatever, just getting deals done. And I just figured I was working with great partners, as I told you, and some clients were really great and I enjoyed what I was doing. It felt like it was going to be like that forever though. And in order for me to make the next step into growth, it felt like I needed to leave And the only reason that happened is because I got a phone call from a recruiter. I just figured I'd be doing this for the rest of my life. And I got a call from a recruiter who said, here's an opportunity that you will help grow the corporate practice. And I heard that and I thought, I've heard of Goldston. It's this great real estate firm, flagship in Boston. Everybody knows it in Boston. And I know some of the people working in the corporate group, and I know they've got great sophisticated clients, all of these other things. And all right, I'll take the meeting. And I felt terrible taking a meeting because, I was so loyal and just didn't want to do it. And then the more people I started talking to and hearing about the firm, it sounded like an opportunity of growth. And how do I describe this? Because when you graduate from associate to partner at a firm, it feels like you're still an associate, at least for me. And I was doing the associate work for the same partners, for the same clients. And, a lot of it's a business and you've got billable hour requirements and all these, it was, that's just what it was. And I wasn't doing what I loved the most. I felt like meeting clients, going out and doing different networking events because there was so much work for the other partners and doing all their things. And when Goldston called and said, here's this opportunity. Yes, of course you can do work if you have clients, number one, but we want you to work with other practice groups and maybe grow who we're currently working with and see what sort of collaboration we can do with existing clients and then, see what happens. And I thought that sounds very great, but I love my firm. I don't want to leave my firm. And, I asked my husband, what do you think? I asked my friends, what do you think? And they're like, Kristen, this is a decision you need to make. We can't tell you what to do. And, I had a list of pros and cons, and my list of cons reflected just a bunch of fear, right? Fear of the unknown, fear of change. As I've gotten older, my tolerance for risk has gone down a lot. I used to do, things and not even worry about it. Now it's like, I don't like change. I don't like, oh my gosh. It's like, wait a minute. They changed the Target around in town. And I walked in and I was like, oh, I don't know where anything is anymore. This doesn't feel right. And I just had like one of those, what am I going to do? So you get used to things and that's the way it is. And so for me, I was afraid of change. How do I say things to the system? Who am I going to sit with at lunch? All of those like first day of school sort of things. And, it took me about 18 months to finally decide, which I realize is on the longer side of people making these sort of changes. And I ultimately said, okay, let's rip off the Band-Aid and take the plunge and see what could happen. And I thought, I wasn't going in-house because we've decided that wasn't for me. But it sounds like through growth at Goldston, I could also maybe have a different balance with my family and I think the hardest part was telling people I was leaving because that had been 15 years of my life. And I still keep in touch with people and it's a small legal community and I'm forever grateful for the people I worked with. And this is just a new platform. And as it turns out, I like doing other things that aren't necessarily just turning documents, which is, I do love that as well. But I like being able to host different events and participate in different things that are more network based and help the next generation of women start coming up in their careers and introduce them to people. So it's now been a little over 2 years and I'm still having, it's still hard to change because that's what I knew and I loved for so many years. But the good news, I'm not sitting alone at lunch and I finally know how to save something to the system. Yeah, so we're so far so good, Julie. It's been good.
So you made that change then in the midst of the pandemic, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah. So was it all remote when you first started with Goldston?
I onboarded remote. And, the tour around the floor was on Zoom.
Wow.
And I don't know if it was easier or harder, because if we were in person at my old firm, I don't know if I could have said goodbye. I don't think I could have. And so, yeah, on the one hand, I think the pandemic made it easier for me to do it outside of the office.
Yeah.
And then onboarding to the new system of taking my time at my house, getting oriented with the programs and the people, and just slowly. And then it was funny because I think I hosted something at my house the first fall that we were allowed to do anything, and it was outside. And I looked at people and I'm like, I need the Zoom box name. Right? Like they just look a little different in person.
Yeah. I mean, like they're taller or shorter, fact or something. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I think a little bit of both, of hard, but also helpful in certain respects. And, now we're in the office probably 60% of the time. And I realize now how much I missed that, and working together and being in offices together and having lunches together. So it's been really nice to be finally back together.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good. One more thing, and then we'll get to the little fun questions. You had also mentioned an executive coach, and I wonder if you would just talk a little bit about how that was part of your growth.
Yes. I, for the first time in my career, asked for help. And the more I realized asking for help and fulfilling some things that I couldn't do myself wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a sign of, okay, you need help, so get help. And I started working with an executive coach who helped me train my brain to stop is it my fault? What did I do wrong? And think about, why are you feeling this way, rather than how can we fix this, or how can we look at it from a different lens? And we would have long conversations about, why do you feel like you can't do this? Or what do you think that person meant in that communication? She would have me turn situations into different stories, like, let's flip it and pretend like there was a different reason why that happened. And then just taking it and looking at it from someone else's perspective, I would come up with these different situations. And it ended up, for me, being funny, because something would happen in a conversation. I was like, wait a minute. All right, let me turn this in my head. What could have happened? Like, that person, wasn't feeling well that morning, and this happened. And so they took it out on me. Whatever it was, it just helped me stop focusing on yourself so much. Look at other people, because it's always easier to think you're the reason or you're the focus. And that's the only common denominator. You think about what's going on with the people you're talking to, but on the other hand, that's how they're thinking too. So right. Working with her, and then she helped me label what I would call a gremlin. And it's the gremlin that sits on your shoulder, or my shoulder rather, and says sometimes, you're not really a good lawyer. You shouldn't be. Nobody wants to hire you. And I said, geez, what is this about this voice? And she said, well, let's label this gremlin and call it something. So we labeled it and called it Edith. And Edith was like she was always present, some days more than others. And I'm like, seriously, I'm good today. And you need to be quiet because I have some stuff to do. And, some days she didn't even show up with me, and other days she was just literally sitting on my head. And it felt like the pressure of, all right, today I need to get it done. And if Edith was right on top of me and wouldn't leave me alone, so you know what, Edith, I'm gonna have to bring in Darth Vader. And I put my Darth Vader helmet on so she couldn't see me, no one could see how I was feeling, and I got through the day. And there's certain days, sometimes you have to put on your helmet, your mask, whatever you want to call it, and just get through the day. And I recognized that not everyone's perfect. Everyone has these feelings. It's just how you deal with them and how do you move on from them, especially when you have a deal to close, client to respond to. And by doing it this way and having the stories and naming her Edith and whatever, it's been very helpful to untangle my own thinking and get to the root of what we're working on. Mm-hmm. So I really like talking with my coach, and we've laughed a lot, and, we get into disagreements about things, which I think is a sign of a really healthy relationship, and growth.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's funny. I had heard a similar suggestion for what I think of as the inner critic.
Mm-hmm.
So I named mine after like a particularly difficult aunt that I had. So I like hear that chirping in my ear. That's what I
Yep.
similar to Edith. But it does, it really helps. It
It
really does.
does.
Yeah. Well, I have just loved talking to you. I'm gonna ask just a couple. I just pick some questions out of
Oh,
my little magic snowman here
so that is a snowman, right? And it's
from
May.
Target, actually.
Yeah.
Little dollar bill.
You found it. I can't find anything now.
Okay. What is your favorite TV show?
My current favorite TV show is Succession. And
Oh,
I
I
didn't see
haven't
last
watched it.
night's episode, so I don't want to know what happened.
No, I haven't seen any of it yet, but I keep hearing about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I don't know if I like it because they're so much more dysfunctional than anybody else I know, so it makes me feel good about like, oh, okay, it could be
Mhm.
worse. But it's entertaining. It's a good show. And second to that would be Ted Lasso.
Yeah. Have you watched the new season?
I'm in the new season now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very devastated about Roy and Keeley still. So,
Really?
yeah, you're not.
No, I
Wow.
don't know. And I think Roy regrets the whole thing, and I don't know, Jamie Tart coming back into the picture potentially. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
All right, next question. What is your least favorite word?
Is it a word or can it be a? Okay, it's a conjunction. Can't.
Oh, yeah, say more.
I don't, and this is something I learned through the kids in their school of I can't do something, and then they've changed it so I can't do something yet. And I like that because okay, you can't currently do something, but why can't you? How do we figure out if you want to do it? Then let's figure out how to do it. So can't, no, that's can't yet, maybe the best, but to me, we can all if we really want to in certain things. So how bad do you want something? How bad do you want to learn something, do something? So can't, I don't like.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna use that with my 3-year-old because I hear I
Yeah,
can't do
yeah.
this. Yeah, exactly. I love that. All right, last one. Are you a dog or a cat person or neither?
Dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we started the pandemic, we had 4 dogs.
Oh my
And I know, talk about dog people. So Santa had brought 2 of those dogs that Christmas prior, I think it was. And we had 2 little miniature dachshunds, Charlie and Henry. And they were kind of old. Santa brought 2 golden doodles, Louis and Francis. So we all kings, Charlie, Henry, Louis, and Francis. And so our house was very loud. So then the first week of the pandemic, poor Charlie passed. My son broke his arm, and then everyone got COVID. And I was like, is the world coming to an end? It was a bizarre week. And then Charlie lasted another year and a half. I mean, Henry lasted another year and a half with us, and he passed last year. And so we're down to just 2 now, Louis and Francis.
Oh, wow. Are they siblings? Are they from the same litter?
Allegedly, yes, but only Santa knows because they showed up on Christmas morning and they looked identical, and now they don't look like each other. They were black and curly fur, and now Louis he looks like a mix between a greyhound and a golden retriever, but with silver hair. And Francis looks like just kind of like a chubby poodle.
So funny.
Yeah. Oscar and Felix is what they should be named.
Oh, cute, cute. Love it. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Kristen. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to be thinking about some of the things that we talked about, I know later. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is fun.
Yeah. So let me just, how can people find you if they want to find you online?
I think I'm available on the Goldstone Store's website. You can look me up there. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So please search me up there, and I'm happy to connect and make new friends, colleagues, and anybody that wants some mentoring in their career. I'm happy to do so. And if you want to learn more about Edith, we can talk about that too.
Yeah. That's great. Thanks, Kristen.
Absolutely.
So next week, Lacey's latest podcast, One More Thing, will drop wherever you get your podcasts. And I will be back on LinkedIn Live on Friday, June 16th with another interesting lawyer. Thank you so much. See you then. Bye.